If you're looking for a workout with the longsword, this video is for you. Jeff Tsai, Forte Swordplay. So today, what we're going to be doing is basically a follow-along workout for the longsword. And the goal is to take a lot of the content that we presented in previous videos, both in terms of technique, as well as drilling and sparring, use those elements and then turn them into a workout that focuses on kind of two parts: blend of building muscle memory, because there are patterns that you want to be learning and getting to the point where you don't have to think about them, but also blending them with a good fitness base. So you'll definitely get cardio out of this. There's even some intensity elements that are similar to like a high intensity interval training. All of those things you can mix together. There are more complex patterns that we'll do later, so we'll probably do follow-on videos if people find this valuable. And then in terms of the amount of time, there's definitely enough information in here, enough sort of components that you can make this as short as 10 minutes, but as long as 30 minutes or longer. So I've done different variations of this. You can definitely mix and match a lot of these things as you go. So before we get into the details of the full follow-along, I'm going to introduce some of the basic components in terms of specifically footwork. And once you've got these components, you'll see that they're just being mixed and matched with the blade work, which we'll get into with the formal follow-along portion. So before we get there, so footwork components, right? So we're going to start with simple alternating footwork, side to side, where if I'm stepping with the right, I'm going to cut for my right, and if I'm going to step with my left, I'm going to cut with my left. Okay, so this is pretty simple. This is one big classification of footwork, and then the other is what we call triangling or doubling footwork, where I am cutting from the same side repeatedly. Right, and so again, I'm cutting from my right, stepping with my right on one side, and then same thing on the other side, on the left. Okay, so that's not new. The thing that we're going to be taking advantage of is also lateral motion with this, right? So back to the alternating. If I'm alternating and I want to move sideways, wide, narrow, wide, narrow, wide, narrow, wide, narrow, wide, narrow, wide, narrow, wide, narrow. Okay, so that'll be our method of actually moving sideways with the alternating footwork. And then similarly, with the doubling footwork, let's start on my right, your left. Here we go. So moving sideways, passing that foot behind, and then if I want to stay attacking on the right and I want to go the other way, I'm going to be doing sort of a little bit of a lean away, lean away, lean away. And of course, we can repeat that on the other side. And the other thing to emphasize is, in general, we're going to default so that the attack happens on the forward foot, not on the rear foot. Attacking on the rear foot is definitely a scenario that should be explored, but right now for default, we're going to be attacking going forward, that forward foot. Okay, so that covers sideways motion, both for the alternating footwork and for the doubling or triangle footwork. The other bit of footwork that we introduced a while ago is the box step. And so as a reminder, it looks like this. So forward, back, forward, back, forward on my right, back on my left, forward on my right, back on my left. So if we take the sword out of it for a minute, so with this pattern and coming forward on the right, if I'm going to move sideways now, what that means is when I move this way to my left, when I come forward, instead of coming straight forward, I'm actually going to come across the line of this other foot And that will lend itself to this grapevine or carioca kind of pattern, okay? So let me start over here so you can see it. So from here, if I'm just doing this as a box step, when I start moving sideways, it'll look like this. Okay, so now if I go back to just doing the box step and I want to go the other way, so when I want to go forward here, I'm going to actually not go this way, but actually go this way. And this yields a sort of zigzag, or you could think of it as a side lunge kind of pattern. Okay. All right, so those are two patterns that we will definitely be using so that we're not doing this just in place, but actually give ourselves the ability to move sideways and in fact potentially circle the opponent. So again, for instance, if I'm doing the box step, actually let's do triangle footwork. So if I'm here and I want to move sideways but actually circle the opponent, I can do things where here, this is purely sideways, but this is also really built to be able to circle the opponent, okay? So yeah, definitely keep that in mind. Anytime we're talking about moving sideways, it is also something that can be used to move in a curve, curving around the opponent, keeping distance. Okay, so that's most of it. The final sort of element, which harkens back to the hit or the intensity plyometric piece, we're going to actually add an explosive component, which will help obviously with conditioning and fitness, but also with height changes. Okay, so we've had things here as part of the grapevine component where we actually step behind. So we're going to take this component and then combine it with a springing component. Okay, and we can do that on both sides. So here, and if anybody's ever seen, I know there are other traditions out there. There's like a Italian stick or baton system, traditional system that has very similar components to this, in which I think there may be interesting connections between the medieval German stuff that's documented in this living tradition. So definitely more in terms of connections there to come. So, okay, I think those cover the different footwork components. So you're going to see these again, and you're going to see them in the context of actually me using the sword with them. So that's next. Okay, so let's get to the workout. The intention is to do each one of these sequences in sort of a hit-like cadence. So roughly 45 seconds or so where we're going to be actually doing movement, and then 15 seconds rest, and then repeat. So, there's going to be a series of these. And the other thing to help with the follow-on component, I'm going to try not to necessarily go too fast. And I'm going to recommend that you try to follow along by mirroring what I'm doing. So for instance, if I were to cut from my left, this would be to your benefit for you to be able to cut from your right. Okay, so attempt to mirror me at all times so that you can, basically follow along. Okay, so with that out of the way, all right, let's start our first sequence. 45 seconds roughly on, 15 seconds off. So each one of these sequences is effectively a minute, okay? So first sequence is half cuts. Okay, so here we go. So from here, we're gonna do alternating footwork first. So now we're gonna go sideways. Try to keep those hands high, arms high, and actually lean in the direction of that cut so that you can hide behind the sword. Get that sword covering your line. So I'm back to center, and now we're going to start doubling. So moving to the side. When I get back to center, I'm going to switch. Go into my right, your left. Back to center, back to alternating. Okay, great. Okay, so that is half cuts. The next thing we're going to do are full cuts. So instead of cutting to long point, we're going to cut all the way down to change or vexel. Okay, so that's the pattern, but otherwise footwork is the same. So getting lots of muscle memory with that footwork. So here we go, full cuts. So, oops, here we go. Cut, cut, alternating, footwork. And let's go this other direction, sideways. Lean behind the sword. And then the other way. Okay, now doubling. Back. Switch. Other side. Back to alternating. All done, okay? So second sequence. Third sequence, and if you notice what we're doing is we're basically, and when you do a cut, there's basically sort of 4 major transition directions you can go with the blade, right? So from long point, I can come straight back, which yields the half cuts. I can get to center and actually cut through. Those are the full cuts. The next one is cutting to center and then coming off the X in this direction. So these are the running off, the Ablauffen patterns. Okay, so that's going to look like this. So I'm going to cut from my left, which is your right, to long point, run off, come around, cut from the other side, run off. Very important pattern, in particular for Krumphau. And other things too. Okay, so here we go. We're alternating and move sideways, sideways. Wide, narrow, wide, narrow. Again, don't forget to lean. Use that body movement. Stay behind the sword. Okay, back to center here. Now doubling. Move sideways. Sideways back. Other side. Back to center. If you can, try to make sure you pull the hands back in between. Gives you the training to actually get the hands out of the way. They try to go for your hands in between these flips. Okay, great. So that is the third of 4 critical cutting patterns, basic cutting patterns. The fourth, I don't think we've actually talked about. This has been sort of an additional research component. So if you think about the X, right, so when I cut here, half cuts, full cuts, running off, when we get to the center, the other branch that we haven't looked at is to actually come this way on the X. Okay, so this pattern, cut, cut. So this is really built for sort of doubling, but you can also use it, you know, side to side. And at the moment, I have a strong suspicion that this is the concept, this is the mechanic that's associated with the term Abnehmen, or taking off or taking away. So, without getting into the details of the technical stuff, let's just focus on the pattern. So it's going to look like this when we're alternating. So here we go. So I'm going to cut to center and then come up the other diagonal. And then cut to center, come up the other diagonal. So I'm actually sort of wiping away the blade if I were to make contact with the opponent's blade. Okay? So now we're going to move sideways as we do it. Again, leaning behind the blade, important. And at this point, I know I can feel it in my shoulders. If people need to take a break, stop the video, take a break. Okay, and then we're gonna double, move sideways, sideways, back to center, other way. So finish nice and strong in the center. Okay, here we go. All right, I know my shoulders are definitely warmed up at that point. So the next couple of sequences I found to be like really helpful for students who are starting to get into learning Krumphau, because people get confused about being able to cut on a specific line when it comes to matching the line of the opponent's blade. All right, so what we're going to be trying to do is to apply the running off pattern, but effectively on the opposite foot that people are used to, right? So for the running off pattern that we've been doing this, right? So I'm stepping and cutting from the same side, okay? So that's good, we want to be able to do that, but we also want to be able to do the opposite, which is I want to step here while cutting on this line. It's going to look like this. Very important for being able to execute Krumphau. So, okay, so we're going to do a couple of sequences that allow us to train those, get those into muscle memory. So here's the sequence. So without worrying about the side to side, we're not going to do that for this. This is much more focused on muscle memory, so we'll worry less about the sideways component. We're going to throw 3 full cuts, 3 full cut Zornhaus, and then 4 running offs. And the reason to do that is so that you basically get a nice balance of starting your Zorns from both sides. And you'll see that as we go. Okay, here we go. So here's the pattern, just to show it before we do it. So 3 Zorns, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to do the standard running off pattern. So run off, 2, 3, 4, and now this allows us to start the Zorn on the other side. 1, 2, 3, run off, run off, run off, run off. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's the pattern. All right, so we practically already started the sequence. We're going to do this for about 45 seconds and then take 15 seconds break. And then we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to actually just change up the footwork for the running off piece. We'll get to that in a minute. So here we go. Here's the workout. So starting on this side, your right. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Last set. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Okay. So now, in contrast to that, we're going to do almost the identical same thing. 3 Zorns, except this time we're going to effectively switch our feet. Well, no, actually the feet will basically be the same, but I'm going to do the running off starting in the other direction. So to show you. Okay, here we go. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to step with this foot, but instead of running off in this direction, I'm going to run off in this direction. And notice by doing this, I'm leaning my head away from the direction that I'm effectively parrying it. Krumphau, okay? So that's how that works. So again, not to rush it, nice and slow, nice and smooth. Doing these 2 sequences next to each other, I think is really helpful so that you can really get the contrast of these different patterns. Okay, here we go. So from your right, 1, 2, 3, crump, 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 crump. 1, 2, 3, crump, 2, 3, 4. Zorn, 2, 3, crump, 2, 3, 4. Zorn, 2, 3, crump, 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 crump. Zorn, 2, 3, crump, 2, 3, 4. Zorn, Zorn, 2, 3, crump, 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 crump. Zorn, 2, 3, crump, 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 crump. Zorn, Zorn, 2, 3, crump, 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 crump. Okay, so there we go. So, okay, good. So distinguishing between standard cut runoff versus crump is, you can use those couple of sequences to really drill that home. So once you have those basics for crump, now what we're going to do, we're going to be introducing some sequences that are, fine on their own for workout, but they're actually designed to be components in a drill that we have actually shown previously, not too long ago, where it's a flow drill, a frequens modus flow drill, where it's attack, defend, attack, defend, attack, defend. And so the attack in this particular case is going to be a full cut. So on the forward foot, so we're going to be basically doing triangling footwork. It'll look like this: attack, defend with a crump, attack, defend with a crump, attack, defend, attack, defend, and then at some point I'm going to switch sides and I'm going to, off of the crump, I'm going to defend. Oh, for whatever reason, maybe he disengaged, came around. I'm going to do again another crump, switch to the side. So defend, attack, defend. So it's that sequence. So again, we'll do about 45 seconds of that. Ready? Here we go. Starting on the left, my left, your right. So starting with the Zorn. So attack, crump, Zorn, crump, Zorn, crump, Zorn, crump. And your opponent, if this were a flow drill, would be doing exactly the same thing, but mirrored. So actually, basically what you are doing, just when I throw my crump, you'd be throwing your Zorn. So you would be attacking here and defending here. Zorn, crump, Zorn, I parry it, attack, I attack, you crump. And let's switch sides. So off my crump, another crump, oops, crump, attack, attack, crump, attack, crump, attack, crump, attack, crump, attack, crump, attack, crump, Zorn, crump. There we go. Okay. So, so that yields a flow drill where the opponent and you are effectively doing mirrored actions. In contrast, if we were doing sort of opposed actions, meaning meaning like we are both effectively, instead of, for instance, I'm doing a Zorn on my left and the opponent is doing a Zorn on their right, we're both doing Zorns from the right, or we're both doing Zorns from the left. Okay, so if we stick to this convention where I'm attacking from here, so here, what we'll do is instead of doing a full cut, we're going to do a running off, step forward, and then here I can do a crump. Attack, crump, attack, crump, Zorn, crump. And this is one of the places where that box step is really valuable. I want to be, I'm cutting over here, but then expecting a similar cut on this side, which means I have to go this way. So the box step, very important for this pattern. Okay, so that's what that looks like. And then again, we will switch to the other side as well. So here we go. So it's effectively just the running off pattern with box step footwork. Okay, so here we go. So cutting from this side first and not hitting the wall. So Zorn, crump, 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 double crump, crump, Zorn, 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 crump. And you may very well notice that this is built to also grapevine, certain direction. Go the other way if you want. Here's the zigzag, side leans. But we'll bring it back to center and finish. Okay, here we go. Okay, so that whole sequence, really, really solid on all of the attacks. Really, really solid in terms of moving sideways. The next thing that I'm going to do gets into, so I would consider that one section. Next section we're going to do actually involves Meyer Square. Okay, so next section here, we're going to be doing this pattern, which hopefully you've seen from previous videos, but here's the reminder. And actually, in this case, I'm probably going to turn around so you can kind of see it from my perspective, which would be your perspective. A reminder of what this cut sequence looks like. Okay, here we go. So if we're going to do this with the long edge, because there are two other variations we're going to do, sort of a Zwerchhau convention where it's short edge on one side, long edge on the other side, and then a flat convention. So we're going to do all three of those variations. But the pattern is basically the same, and with long edge looks like this. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we're going to start that sequence again instead of here, but here. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then from here, we're going to repeat 1, okay? So that's the sequence. We're going to do that repeatedly. So you've seen it sort of from behind my shoulder, which is your perspective, sticking to the convention of just doing this in a mirrored way. What I will do then, I'm going to have you guys continue to mirror me, and I will start on this side, the cut, and you guys start on that mirrored side, and then you'll be repeating exactly what I just did there. So footwork in this particular case, we're going to keep simple for the sake of actually getting the muscle memory on the blade being the focus, okay? So just alternating footwork, although you'll notice I don't necessarily keep my feet even this way when I do it. In some cases, I'm going to be more this way, and in some cases, I'm going to be more this way. I'll let you play with that and think about that for yourselves, why you're making that choice, why I'm making that choice. But as you do the sequence, you will probably start to feel a preference for having your feet a certain way depending on which pair of cuts you're actually doing. So so this is part of the fun to kind of like feel that out and see what makes sense. Okay, here we go. So Meyer Square, not rushing it, nice and smooth, long edges version. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. Nope, messed it up. Sorry. Let's do this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we got a double. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and a double again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 1. Okay? So that is the sequence we do it with purely long edge. So next variation we're going to do is what I'm calling a Zwerchhau or a Thwart convention. So long, short, long, short. Okay? And again, I mean, it's the same sequence. So I'm probably going to slow it down a little bit just so you can actually pay attention and try to track those edges. But so on this side, for me, this is going to be my long edge. On this side, you know, when I'm hitting people with the Zwerch, it's going to be with the short edge on this side. Okay, long over here, short over here. Okay, here we go. So starting on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 1. Okay, all right. So again, same pattern, just long edge on this side for me, short edge on this side for me. Final version, flats. I talked about this when we did our Meyer Square video. When you're hitting someone with the flat, there's two flats, right? So you can be hitting your opponent with this flat or with this flat. And this is where we get into, and I'm probably gonna do a video on this, like the idea of hitting with an inside flat versus outside flat. So very simply, like if my opponent's here and I have to worry about attacks coming from my opponent, here I'm covering my inside line. If I go this way, I am not, right? I'm open here. And so assuming that I am a righty, that's an important thing that I think Meyer makes that assumption. So this, therefore, is my inside flat, and this is my outside flat. So if I'm hitting with the outside flat, it's going to look like this as opposed to inside this way. Something that adds complexity to that is once we actually go into ox kind of positions, that can sort of flip on itself. So long story short, hitting with the flat is effectively still using the same cutting mechanics as like a Zwerch kind of situation, except you're just going to turn at the end to hit with that flat. So here we go. So for instance, so here, long edge, but I'm going to actually turn and hit here. And then when I come here, like a Zwerch, I'll hit. So inside flat, outside flat, inside flat, outside flat. Very Zwerch-like, but just turning so that you're hitting with the flat at the end. So I'm going to go, I'll probably go really, really slow in this case, just so you can track these things. But yeah, think the Zwerch convention, but flip to the flat, the appropriate flat at the end. So here we go. I'm going to start on this side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, let's see, so 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 1. Okay. Here we go. So, Meyer Square, great way to, again, kind of remember the pattern and work on all those different variations. So, okay, so we're sort of halfway through the Meyer Square section. Let's get to the real fun part of the workout, which is the plyo explosive component. All right, so we're going to take these diagonals that we've been doing, this or this, right? And we're actually going to mix that with slightly more complicated footwork. So it's going to look like this. So when I'm cutting from below, I'm actually going to come down here to that sort of backward grapevine. And then when I come to the diagonal here, I'm going to leap up and actually hit. So it looks like this. Okay, all right, so each one of those takes roughly about a second. So we're gonna do about, we'll do about 20 on one side and then switch sides. So this is fun. All right, here we go. So the plyo component. So here we go. So we'll start here and go up to here. Okay, so ready? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, hands high, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Let's go to the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. So hopefully you can see doing just a few iterations of that. Definitely you get your cardio in there. You start building some plyometric component in there. So if we're feeling up to it, next version I'm going to do, I'm just going to focus on the springing component. Okay. So we're going to basically work those high Zwerchs this way, this way, this way, this way with the springing. Okay, so here we go. So footwork's going to look like this: here, 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 here. Okay, ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we can move to the side as we do it. 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40. All right. Definitely warmed up. All right. So you might think that the explosive piece there is a really tiring one. I'm not sure I agree when I think about the last piece. So we focused on just the explosive up part. Now let's put in there these lower grapevines. I'm going to just kind of alternate them back and forth. So this will be a really fun one to sort of finish out on for this section. So here we go. So each one of these I'm going to pair with an unter, but using that spheric convention. Right, long edge from this side, short edge from my right. Long to the left, short from the right. Okay, here we go. 40 or 45 seconds. It's plenty of time on this. Here we go. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40. Whew. Okay, very serious burn. But that way you know it's working. Okay, so we've basically gone through a whole section at the beginning, which was on cuts from above, right? Then this whole section that we just did with Meyer Square was really alternating between high, low, or low, high. There is a third section of sequences, which is introducing a concept that we're going to be talking about more in the next few weeks, but I think this is a good place to sort of introduce it. This general concept of stroking or brushing upward, I think is the best translation. The German term is Aufstreichen, or just streichen. S-T-R-E-I-C-H-E-N. And it gets tricky trying to translate these things. You've got words like streichen, schlock, schlagen, hauen. Like there's a bunch of treffen. There's a bunch of different words that all mean to hit, to cut, to strike. So the nuances between them can be difficult to kind of figure out. So I think for streichen, particularly with the context that you see a lot in Meyer and other places, they seem to be upward motions. So some sort of Unterhau, but also not so much a strike. Like you can definitely hit with it, but that's generally not the primary goal of that motion. A lot of times it's there to sort of wipe away, brush away something that's incoming from above. So it's a good, I think Meyer actually has a section using this as an example where he literally says, you know, this is a good thing to use against all attacks from above. The very last section in his section on the Longsword, by the way, if people want to look that up. So here's the general idea. So if I'm going to cut, and we can think of this as a flow parry, right, or like a flow drill. So when I cut, remember the sequence where we go cut, parry with crump, cut, parry, cut, parry. That parry is happening from above and pushing down. So the flip side of that can also be cut, parry, cut, parry, cut, parry, cut, parry. And on the other side, cut, parry, cut, parry, cut, parry, right? So these sorts of parries, they're not new. Like we've known about those sorts of parries from things like saber, right? So when I cut, I can parry here. I can also cut and parry this way with a one-handed sword like saber. This is typically what you normally do as a moulinet. But with a longsword, sure you can do this, but this all of a sudden becomes sort of easier because you don't have this unsupported wrist position. You've got the backhand to help with that. So both sides are nicely equal in that sense. So we want to be able to do both of those transitions. And So we'll do more of this later. So I know it's already been like a pretty good workout. So I'm really going to finish up with just 2 more sequences. So using the hanging parry as one of 3 variants for Aufstreichen. And actually, since we're here, let me kind of show this to you. So from here, I can do that hanging, let's see, let's do this. From here, I can do this hanging parry, right here, here, attack, parry. And I can just do this with alternating footwork, but it also works really well with the box step. I get more of a turn. So here, hanging parry, attack, hanging parry, attack, hanging parry, attack, hanging parry. Now, so that's graded against the cat that comes from this side. Cut, parry, attack from the opponent's right on my left, okay? So if this works, there's no reason that it doesn't also work for me to come, instead of hands high, point low, hands low, point high. So cut, parry, cut, parry, cut, hang, cut, parry from above. And it's that wiping away of the opponent's cut, which is the key thing here. So I'm doing this stuff solo today. Fortunately, I don't have a partner to kind of show that, but we will definitely show that with a partner at a later date. So at the moment, I just want to show those kind of relationships. And the other nuance, that third version, is at the moment here, hanging, okay? Here, come up the short edge and wipe away the opponent's blade. But you can also use the long edge, and that's a little bit funkier here. Short, I don't have to turn my wrists as much. Here, long, I have to turn my wrists more, and it's kind of a weird position, almost like right ox, but not quite. Here, right ox would be here. It's actually more of a unicorn kind of position per Meyer. So here, short, long, short, long, hanger, okay? So let's get back to sequences. So what I'm going to be doing is kind of putting all that stuff together in terms of alternating footwork, sideways footwork, box step footwork. So just follow along here as best as you can. If you can only do this with basic alternating footwork, just stick to that. So here's the basic idea. I'm going to cut, parry, cut, parry, cut, parry with the hanger, okay? And we'll switch sides and do those other sides. So here we go. So cut and just mirror me, parry, cut, parry, cut, parry, cut, parry. I can do it with the box step. Here, 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 here. I'm going to do a double parry, cut, parry, cut, parry, cut, cut, box step. I move sideways with it. Grapevine. Okay, there we go. So those 2 patterns, actually, really it's the same pattern, just mirror sides. Okay, so that's a bit of an introduction. There's basically 2 other variations where we can do that with the short and long edge variations. And then, because the Aufstreichen concept is sort of functionally the equivalent of brushing upward as opposed to brushing downward with the crump, everything that we've done with those couple of sequences that could be a partner flow drill, you can do it with this. We'll show that later. So one final thing to finish this off on, final sequence. This is being taken from Figueiredo for the Montante, the great sword, the 2-handed sword. But I like adding it in here because I think it definitely applies to longsword. And it's really good for just general mobility, nice, easy flow. to kind of round out and cool down with. So, so now we start putting together slightly more complicated sequences where they're actually double attacks, right? So it's going to actually be short, long, and then on the other side, short, long, short, long, short, long, okay? So nice and easy. We'll do a whole bunch of sequence of this, and then I will do a version that's not intended to be for follow-along this time, just because it's a little bit of complicated stuff, including turnarounds. So this time we won't do the turnaround, but I'll show it to you. So let's do the follow-along piece first. So about 45 seconds of the sequence. So I'm actually going to start on this side. So I'm going to basically plunge down. It's like Meyer's Zwerchhau, plunging cut. So plunge with the short edge and then step and cut. Plunge, cut. Okay, that's the sequence from this side. Here we go. Mirrored. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3 and 4. Okay. So hopefully you get that process down. The more advanced version that I'm going to demonstrate here, and I think it's easier to see sideways, so I'm going to be going this way, is the turnaround, which is really, I'm just doing the same thing, but it's critical that you actually pivot on sort of that last step. And you also look over your shoulder so you know what you're turning into, okay? So here we go. I'm going to start over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And before I keep going here, I'm actually going to look over my shoulder, turn and pivot. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So just a little bit of a demo of that sequence. Hopefully you can see the benefits of just adding that extra dimension in terms of pivoting. Also, not always be focused on a target that's directly in front of you. This is starting to build in some physical vocabulary of paying attention and being able to pivot to other directions in the battle space, right? Not always directly in front of you. If you need to kind of pivot to another direction, this is a way to do that. And considering it's coming from a art of montante, where culturally it was probably used by one person dealing with multiple opponents coming from different angles, that totally tracks, makes sense. So, all right. I hope you have stuck with me so far up to this point. And again, this is fairly basic stuff, but obviously a lot of it. So do what you can. Hopefully you can follow along, get some value out of that. And if you like that, please like, subscribe to the channel. Let us know what worked for you, what you'd like to see more of. And our hope is to actually do more of these with more complicated stuff going forward. All right. Hope you enjoyed the workout. See you next time.